What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel once again and welcome to a new video. So we're only a few days removed from UFC 280 and in the main event, Charles Oliveira lost to Islam Makhachev as he failed to capture the vacant UFC lightweight championship. Oliveira of course hadn't lost a fight in the UFC in the last 5 years leading up to UFC 280, and on top of that he had already beaten Tony Ferguson, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje quite recently as well. But this past weekend in Abu Dhabi, Oliveira was forced to tap out in the second round after a very dominant performance from Islam Makhachev. I made a full review video of the UFC 280 main event. If you haven't watched that already, do yourself a favor and watch that video on the channel as well. But we're not here to talk about the UFC 280 main event. Rather, I'm going to be discussing who Charles Oliveira could potentially fight next and what I think of this entire situation regarding the former UFC lightweight champion. Now, let me start off by saying this, that I usually prefer an immediate rematch when you have a dominant champion lose his or her championship. Over the years, we have seen it on numerous occasions when a dominant champion loses the title, he or she gets an immediate rematch. This year, we saw it with Amanda Nunes, who got herself an immediate rematch after losing the title to Juliana Pena. She, of course, won back the UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship. So, in Charles Oliveira's case, I would have advocated for an immediate rematch between him and Islam Makhachev, but the only problem is Charles Oliveira was not the champion at UFC 280 because he had to vacate the title after missing weight for the Justin Gaethje fight. So, unfortunately, we are not going to be seeing an immediate rematch between Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev. Rather, the new champion is going to defend his title against Alexander Volkanovski. So, it is quite likely that we are getting Islam versus Volk next for the UFC Lightweight Championship, and Volk now has the chance to become the latest UFC double champion. But focusing on Charles Oliveira's case, I think at the moment the only fight that makes sense for him the most is none other than Beneil Dariush. I mean, this is the perfect fight to make from here onwards. I mean, given the new scenario that has now developed in the lightweight division with a new champion, this fight makes all the sense in the world. And I will explain why. Now, you see that at UFC 280, Dariush looked absolutely unbelievable against Mateusz Gamrot. Now, I didn't exactly think that this would happen, but Gamrot's grappling in that fight looked a lot better and superior compared to his own striking, which I think is his actual strong aspect. Unfortunately for Gamrot, though, the only occasion when his grappling looked a bit solid in that fight was just in the first round itself. Other than that, Dariush's takedown defense completely shut down Gamrot's grappling. I mean, the first round of that fight was very well in favor of Gamrot, but the way Dariush adjusted himself in the second and third rounds were very crucial for him in winning that fight. He did a great job in defending those takedowns from Gamrot, and even when Gamrot took the fight down to the ground from his own dominant position, it was Dariush who was getting the better of him on the mat. And on top of that, Dariush just simply proved everyone how good of a striker he actually is, courtesy of that fight. I mean, in the past we have seen him knock out the likes of Scott Holtzman and Drakkar Klose, in which were of course two of his best KOs in the UFC till date, and in this fight he just pretty much proved that he's more than capable of dealing with a striker of such high intensity like Mateusz Gamrot himself. So Dariush coming out with such a statement victory definitely is one of the key factors in the lightweight division now, and on top of that he is currently 33 years old, so this is literally like the perfect time period for the UFC to award him a title shot. And the only way I think that makes sense for Beneil to fight for the championship is by having him fight former champion Charles Oliveira in a title eliminator fight. I mean, Oliveira will be hungry to make a statement return. We all know how Charles Oliveira actually is. He wants to go out there every time and prove all his critics wrong. He wants to go out there and put together his best performance, and the only way he could do so after losing to Islam Makhachev is by beating a top contender and such a dominant fighter in the form of Beneil Dariush. We can have Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski in early 2023, and we can very well have Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush in 2023 as well, with the winner guaranteed of the first shot at the championship after Makhachev versus Volkanovski. So, in my opinion, I think Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush is stylistically a great fight. I mean, Dariush is as legit as they come. I'm pretty sure some people are sleeping on this man, but trust me, he very well belongs with the top contenders of the current generation of the UFC's lightweight division. He might not have such a big social media presence such as the likes of Justin Gaethje or Michael Chandler or Dustin Poirier even, but he is more than capable of beating all these guys that I just named. And this is literally the right time for the UFC to push Dariush to the top of the lightweight division. And who knows, maybe, just maybe, we will see him versus Makhachev get booked once again after that fight initially fell through. So, for my top pick for Charles Oliveira's return opponent, I think Beneil Dariush is the man the UFC should turn to. This fight makes all the sense in the world to me, as well as in terms of the current title picture. I mean, I could have pretty much thrown in the idea of Charles Oliveira fighting the winner of Michael Chandler versus Dustin Poirier, but we've already seen those fights in the past. So yeah, this one makes a lot more sense, and on top of that, it's high time that I think that the UFC starts to feature fighters like Rafael Fiziev, Mateusz Gamrot, Arman Sarukian, Damir Ismagulov, and of course Benil Dariush himself, because this feels like a new era of the lightweight division now, with all these fighters slowly starting to establish themselves and starting to establish their place as the top dogs of the 155-pound division in the UFC. But as for the former champion Do Bronx, we shall see what sort of adjustments he's going to make when he shares the octagon with another fighter who has great grappling, great takedown defense, and great striking as well. Will Charles Oliveira survive the Benil Dariush onslaught, or could we potentially witness the beginning of another former champion's downfall? You never know. Only time will tell, but for now, that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments if you think Beneil Dariush is the right choice to fight Charles Oliveira next. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everyone.